Sometimes to find true love, you need to have a part two for that. And that is the reason why Tanu Weds Manu was followed by Tanu Weds Manu Returns. Golmaal was followed by Golmaal Returns, and Singham was followed by Singham Returns. And maybe that's the reason why we are having Endurance Tech Fundamental Analysis followed by Endurance Tech Fundamental Analysis Returns. Hey folks, Rachana Ranade here, and I welcome you all to a very interesting video which is about Endurance Tech Fundamental Analysis Returns. So in this video, I'm going to talk about a lot of updates that have happened about endurance technologies, and I had discussed this video on our channel on this date, and that's how this entire video was published on the channel. So if you have not watched that video, ideally you should be watching that video first and then understand about the updates on endurance. Before we move on with the updates, I would really like to tell you that we have completed 2 years of our YouTube memberships as on date. I told about this in the previous video as well, but feels very good to tell you again that this basket of 25 stocks has given a return of more than 30% in spite of the recent fall. And so many requests were coming up to me that, Rachana, could you please disclose at least 5 to 6 stocks that you still hold in your portfolio from a longer term perspective. So this 10th of December at 9 p.m. I will be doing a live stream wherein I'll talk about 6 stocks that I hold in my portfolio out of the 25 stocks that I have discussed with the Pro Investor members. So don't forget to join in this live stream, and if you're still not a Pro Investor member, don't forget to click the blue join button on the channel. Well, in that 45 minutes long video on endurance technologies, I've actually talked about the entire kundali of the company, whatever is required for an investor's perspective, right? But then what are we going to do in this video? Since that video, what additional points have happened in the company till date? We are going to talk about 5 key points. Number 1, we are going to talk about new product additions. Number 2, we are going to talk about whether there is any update on the capacity expansion or capacity utilization. We are also going to talk about the order book status of the company. We will cover the risk factors, and finally we'll be talking about the financials of the company. Let me remind you all one more time that all these creative people are spammers. That's how my account looks like. Also remember, I never give my mobile number in any chat. I neither have an advisory nor do I give any stock tips. Now let's have a quick recap of what products does Endurance offer and any additional products that they have forayed into, right? So the very first one here you can see is that they are the tier 1 supplier of diverse product offerings to various OEMs. And what is OEM? Original Equipment Manufacturer. So if I talk about two-wheelers especially, they are into 4 major subsets, I can say. Which are the 4 major ones? Aluminium casting and machining, in suspension, transmission, and braking systems. Okay, so if I'm talking about aluminium casting and machining, so here you can see this is with dark blue, and all those with dark blue are mentioned in the diagram. So something like a cylinder head will come up under aluminium casting and machining. In suspensions, we have shock absorbers and front forks and whatnot. Okay, in transmissions, you have the clutch. In braking systems, you have disc brake assembly components and whatnot. Oh my god, getting a feeling of being an engineer, but which I'm not. Okay, anyway, so I hope you have understood two-wheelers what all things are they making and supplying. If I talk about three-wheelers, they are giving all these, they are manufacturing all these parts like hydraulic shock absorbers, drum brake assembly, clutch assembly, okay. For four-wheelers also, they are manufacturing this gearbox housing, small commercial vehicle clutch, and quadricycle shock absorbers, okay. If I move on with four-wheelers now, here you can see not only in India but also in Europe, they have a diverse product offerings to OEMs. So here you can see in suspension and body parts, they are making head axles, cross members, steering houses and housing and few more. If I'm talking about engine parts, they are manufacturing oil pan, various brackets, specialty plastic covers and few more things. And if I'm talking about transmission parts, they are into the gearbox housing, torque converter housing, transmission housing, and very important, what is that? EV parts. That is something which was not present when I did the member special fundamental analysis video. So this is something which has come up as a new product thing, okay? EV parts related supply. Anything else that they have forayed into? Yes, they have forayed into non-automotive machined casting business. So basically, they were originally only and only auto anks company, auto ancillary related company, but now they are also going to supply certain parts to companies which are into gensets, companies which are related to 5G telecom. Okay, and this company Endurance Technology has already received business of 1100 million rupees. They are going to start commencing the supply of these products from April 2022, and they are saying that these die casting plants are located in Sakand and Vallam. One more product that they have forayed into is the trading of two-wheeler and three-wheeler for both exports and domestic markets. The company has 97 distributors for tires, complementing its 377 strong distributor network for other aftermarket products. In simple words, what I did right now, quick recap. Number one, we did talk about existing products. Number two, we talked about additional products. Three major parts related to EV. Number two, we talked about parts related to 5G telecom and gensets. And number three, we talked about tires, trading, but not manufacturing. Now let's talk about the strategic locations of all their plants. We'll start off with India. Here you can see in India they have in totality 18 plants. If you remember when we did the video, they had 17 plants. They have added one new plant at Vallam near Chennai, which started operations from February 2021 for the production and supply of aluminium castings to OEMs. Okay. Now if you have a look at Europe, you can see that right now they have a total of 9 plants, including Germany and Italy, right? If you remember, in the previous video, there were 10 plants. Now, what has happened? They basically consolidated the foundry activities of 2 plants in Italy. They took it down to 1, because of which there was a saving of 600,000 euros. So, that was a very positive sign for the company. Any other additional points? So, answer is yes. They have increased the capacity in the disc brake assembly from 285,000 units per month to 570,000 units per month. This is almost doubling their capacity in the disc brake assembly space. What about brake disc capacity now? In the brake disc capacity also, their capacity has increased from 375,000 per month to 675,000 per month. Now, these capacities could make Endurance the largest disc brake supplier to Indian two-wheeler industry. So, that's a very good update in this company. ABS market size. So moving on to the next update, basically ABS market size is 3.5 million assemblies, and 85% of the two-wheeler ABS market is controlled only by one multinational company right now. The company is initially installing capacity of 4 lakh assemblies. So what is basically Endurance Technology is doing is that currently in the ABS space, it's mainly led only by one MNC. Endurance is foraying into that space as well. They are initially installing a capacity of 4 lakh assemblies, and by the end of 2023 March, they're expecting to reach the installed capacity for this specific plant, and with this, they could become the only supplier in India that manufactures the entire assembly with the ABS unit. Moving ahead, if you remember, I had talked about one important point in that video wherein company was also going to enter into the wire braided hose plant, wherein that wire braided hose will act as an import substitute. The operations have already begun in June 2021. Also, I talked about the Adler Grimeca IP acquisition. Why they were going to do that? Because they wanted to enter into 200cc ka bikes ka segment, motorcycle ka segment. And yes, they have started production of brakes from September 2021, and they are planning to start the production of clutches in the same space by Q1 of financial year 2023. If I'm talking about a capex update, capital expenditure update, in India it's 2 billion rupees, and in euros it is 24 million in Europe. Now let's talk about the order book update. Now, why is order book important? Please understand that gives us an analysis that gives us an interpretation of the revenue visibility for the next year. Higher is the order book, higher are the chances of revenue. Okay, so let's understand what are their order book updates. First, we'll start off with India. In India, they have received new orders worth 6,380 million, from which OEMs such as Honda Motors, RE, Hero, Yamaha, TVS, Hyundai, Kia, right? These are the few major names. They have also won EV business, the hot topic, electric vehicle business, from Bajaj, Mahindra, Tata and others. They also started supply of brakes, expansions and castings for two-wheeler and three-wheeler also. I'm sure you might have heard about Ather. right? Ather is again an EV OEM. They have received an order of about 500 million per annum regarding the brake assembly order. So all these were the key orders. There are many more, but I talked about major three in India. Now what about Europe? In Europe, they have received new orders worth 19.3 million euros from OEMs such as Audi, Daimler, Volkswagen, FCA, Maserati, and in Q1 FY22, orders worth 7.13 million were won from Porsche, Daimler, CNH, and Stellantis. Orders in hand currently they have, which is almost about 30 million euros for electric cars from Audi, Porsche, and euro 90 millions for hybrid models of Volkswagen, Daimler, BMW, FCA, and Maserati. And peak volume is expected to be reached by financial year 24. What about aftermarket related segment? Their exports are currently to 30 countries, and 4 more countries will be added in this year. All in all, I feel that their order book looks to be pretty strong. Plus, with the entry in the EV space, this is going to be really interesting. Now let's move ahead with the risk factors. We are going to talk about 2 major risk factors for the company. Number 1 is chip shortage, and number 2 is COVID lockdown. Now you might be wondering what is the scenario about chip shortage. That is the reason why I am showing you an entire screenshot directly from the management commentary. Okay. Now there was an analyst which asked about the impact of this chip shortage on their overall European business. Now management has very clearly mentioned that the new car registrations have seen a very bad result, and their production degrew, means fell down by almost 30 to 40% if I'm talking about Germany. In fact, they have also mentioned that management believes that based on customer feedback, this might bottom out and might come back to normalcy by second quarter of financial year 22. But even if you check the last line, it mentions that customers apparently want to confirm the volumes for 2022 as per their producer forecast. In simple words, anyways, there was a production cut. They believe that things might come back to normalcy, but customers are not really sure. They are saying we will confirm the volumes with you all. All in all, I can say this is too early to talk about the bottoming of the chip shortage thing. Okay, so is that a risk or more of an uncertainty thing? So I think more of uncertainty, which might lead to a risk. Okay. Second one is again pretty important, which is the COVID lockdown scenario right now in Europe. I'm sure you might have read in the news that right now Corona is spreading very fast in Europe, and right now WHO has warned Europe and Central Asia they could face another 7 lakh COVID-19 deaths by March. One more point is that in Germany right now, their health minister has described the situation as a national emergency, and their official figures released on Thursday show that Germany has become the largest country to pass the grim milestone of 1 lakh deaths from COVID-19 since the pandemic began. In fact, in France also, the situation is deteriorating. More than 30,000 new daily cases being reported. Belgium hospitalization admission has increased by 30% per week. Many of their patients are also in ICU. More than a quarter of their hospitalized patients are in ICU right now. So all in all, if you see, unfortunately, the scenario in Europe as far as pandemic is concerned is very grim. You might be like, why Rachana is focusing so much on Europe? 30%, almost 30% of companies' revenues come from Europe. Now, if majority of the countries in Europe again go in a lockdown, can that badly impact the revenues for Endurance for this year at least? My answer is possibly yes. Now let's move on with the finances. I'm not going to talk about each and every point in detail. 3 major points. First, we'll talk about sales, we'll talk about EBITDA, then we'll talk about PAT as far as P&L is concerned, right? Now have a look at the total revenue chart. Here you can see that all in all, CAGR is just of 4.9% for total revenue. It was increasing, but in 20 and 2021, it has been decreasing. If you talk about EBITDA and EBITDA margins, also the same. You can see EBITDA margins are more or less at 15 to 16%, but in absolute terms, it has gone down in financial year 2021 as compared to 2020. Even if you talk about PAT and PAT margins, same old story. PAT margins somewhere around 7-8%, but again in absolute terms it has gone down from 5,655 to 5,196. Obviously all are Indian rupees in millions. Okay, whatever figures I told right now. If I'm talking about 2 key ratios, ROCE and net debt to equity, First one is ROC. Here you can see a very bad position because ROC is going down from 24.8% to 21.7% to 16.9%. Is this alarming? I'm not liking this figure, right? See, still anything above 15% is good, but see the drop, that is pretty much high, right? Now if I talk about net debt to equity ratio, that is also going down. Is that a bad sign? Answer is no. Net debt to equity, lower the better. So this is a good number, right? If I talk about after market related things, here you can see that the overall CAGR is 11% from 2016 to 21. Here you can see continuously revenues are rising. Happy? Yes. But what is the problem then? Problem is that aftermarket sales revenue is contributing to only 4.7% of the total consolidated revenue. So even if the growth is good here, problem is that it's forming a very tiny part of the total consolidated revenue. And now the big question, is endurance tech still in my portfolio or not? Now looking at the entire overview of whatever we discussed right now, we did talk about the product portfolio being increased. That was a positive sign. We did talk about increase in capacity utilization and additional installed capacities. That was a positive sign. But then we talked about two important risk factors. Number one we discussed was about the chip shortage, and number two was about corona pandemic. And we also talked about financials which were not performing good of late, again because of the reasons that we discussed right now. So do I still continue to hold this stock in my portfolio? Answer is no. I have booked a decent enough profit in this specific stock, but does it mean that I have banned it in my portfolio for a lifetime? Answer is no. If I feel that the concerns which are bothering the company right now fade away, I might think about re-entering the stock at a different level. So I hope you have enjoyed this one. If you have, don't forget to check out my other videos for the Pro Investor members. Also don't forget to check out some interesting videos. So if you want, you can share it with your friends as well. Till then, take care. Jai Hind and bye-bye.